I've been a wrestling fan for 10 years now, and I've recently ranked the first 30 WrestleManias. So, these last 10 WrestleManias, I've been able to watch live. So this is a perfect ending to this series. My name is Drew, better known as RockChalk01, and here's the last 10 WrestleManias ranked from worst to best. Coming in last place, number 10, I've got WrestleMania 32. Despite holding the record for the largest crowd in Mania history, this show was bitten by the injury bug and it fell flat. There was a lot more bad matches than good matches, and it was tough to pick the worst match on this show. I mean, you got Roman Reigns versus Triple H, Brock Lesnar versus Dean Ambrose, but the match that I went with was The Rock versus Eric Rowan, and yes, that was a match. 6 seconds, all just to boost The Rock's ego. Without a doubt, the best match on the card was the women's triple threat match between Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, and Becky Lynch. Wow, that match was incredible. All in all, this show is probably the second worst modern WrestleMania in history, so it's easily number 10. At number 9, give me WrestleMania 34. This show was so underwhelming because on paper, it looked like it was going to be pretty good. But in practice, oh man, it fell flat on its face. Now, this show had a diamond in the rough. It was the mixed tag match between Ronda Rousey and Kurt Angle versus Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. Rousey was good in her debut, Kurt Angle still had it, and Triple H and Stephanie were perfect heels. Without a doubt, the worst match on the card has to be Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns because, oh my god, 6 F5s and he still couldn't go down. Good grief. This was just the most boring WrestleMania main event in history. All in all, this show was just meh at best. It was better than 32, but there's no way it can beat the other 8. So it's here at number 9. This might be controversial, but number 8, I've got Mania 36, the first 2-night Mania in history. This show, for them to pull it off with all the circumstances, it gets bonus points. Match quality, some of it's there. But the lack of a crowd not being there brings this show way down. Because this, if it had a crowd, probably in my eyes is a top 15 Mania. But it does have some good matches. In fact, the best match out of both nights is the Boneyard match between The Undertaker versus AJ Styles. A perfect way to send off the dead man. The worst match, there's some choices, but the one that made no sense to me was Elias versus King Corbin. Why that match was on the card is beyond me. All in all, during the time period, this was a perfect Mania. But as it ages, it got dropped down drastically. So it's here at number 8. Moving on to number 7, it's WrestleMania 33. This show has, without a doubt, the best stage in Mania history. But in terms of the overall show itself, it was lackluster, middle of the pack. The best match on the card, I've got to go with the opener, and that was AJ Styles versus Shane McMahon. Jeez, that surprised everybody. The worst match on the card, sadly, I've got to say the main event between Roman Reigns and The Undertaker. Taker didn't even like it himself. This match stunk. Overall, this show was middle of the pack at best, but it was better than the other 3 and not better than the other 6. So I've got WrestleMania 33 at number 7. Next at number 6, it's Mania 35, also known as WWE's apology for WrestleMania 34, because this show was so much better than the year priors. However, the downside is that it was so freaking long. It clocked in at over 5.5 hours, and with it being in New Jersey, this transitioned into early Monday morning. Anyway, the best match on the card was easily the WWE Championship match between Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston. And the worst match, there's a couple squashes here and there, but the one that I picked was Kurt Angle and Baron Corbin, with Corbin retiring Kurt Angle. It should have been Cena. Anyway, this was a much better WrestleMania, but I think 5 more were just better than this, so it sits at the top of the bottom half at number 6. This is where things start to get tough for me because starting the top 5 at number 5, I've got WrestleMania 38. This show, dang, it's good. I mean, it is widely considered a good Mania, and in my eyes, I think it might be a top 10 Mania. But man, there's a lot more better choices. Anyway, the best match on the card, you can kind of pick between Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins, but I went with the Raw Women's Championship match between Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch. My gosh, that was an incredible match. The worst match, you really could say Vince McMahon versus Pat McAfee because that really didn't need to take place. But the one that shouldn't have taken place either night was the New Day versus Sheamus and Ridge Holland, only for it to be over 90 seconds long. What was the point? All in all, I really love this Mania, but I think 4 Manias are better than this one, so I've got it here at number 5. At number 4, give me WrestleMania 37. This is the first 2-night Mania to be held in front of a crowd. Unfortunately, it had a rain delay that took about 45 minutes, but from beginning to end, from both nights, it was a really good show. It had a lot of good matches. I mean, Bad Bunny and Damian Priest versus The Miz and Morrison is a good example. Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks in the Night 1 main event. But the best match, I have to go with the Night 2 main event, which is a triple threat match between Roman Reigns, Edge, and Daniel Bryan, where Reigns pinned both Edge and Daniel Bryan to win. And yeah, that's an iconic shot anyway. The worst match on the card, I could have gone with the women's tag team turmoil match, but easily it has to be the opener of Night 2, which was Randy Orton versus The Fiend Bray Wyatt, and it was just bad. All in all, this show, to bring back the crowds, perfect, and it was an incredible Mania. Unfortunately, I think 3 are better than this one. So WrestleMania 37 is number 4. Number 3, I've got Mania 39. Geez, this is easily a top 10 Mania of all time because it's just that good. Now, the best match out of both nights, you can probably pick from 3, and that would be Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley for the SmackDown Women's Championship, the triple threat IC title match between Gunther, Sheamus, and Drew McIntyre. But the one that I went with as the best match because of storytelling and match quality was the Night 1 main event for the Undisputed Tag Team Championships as the Usos faced off against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. The worst match out of both nights, unfortunately it has to go to an impromptu match as it was The Miz taking on Shane McMahon, who was then replaced by Snoop Dogg. Yeah, Shane McMahon tore his quad that night and Snoop Dogg had to fill in. All in all, this show was incredible, but I think there are a couple ahead of it, so WrestleMania 39 sits at number 3. Number 2 is WrestleMania 31. Without a doubt, the most underrated Mania in history because this show was looking to be horrible. But then when it happened, oh my gosh, it exceeded everyone's expectations, including my own. Without a doubt, the best match on the card was Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins as he cashed in his Money in the Bank contract and had the heist of the century. The worst match, because no one really cared about it, was AJ Lee and Paige taking on the Bella Twins. And I feel bad that that's the worst match because it's still a pretty good one. Unfortunately, I think one Mania is just better than this one, but it is the most underrated Mania of all time, so I gotta give it its props. WrestleMania 31 is number 2. And finally, number 1, I've got WrestleMania 40. From the opening match on WrestleMania Saturday to the final match on WrestleMania Sunday, this show was almost a near perfect show. It had one dud the entire weekend, and that was Jey Uso versus Jimmy Uso, aka a Super Kick Superfest. The best match on the card you can probably pick out of like 3, maybe 4. I mean, Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre was good. Sami Zayn versus Gunther for the IC title was good. Bayley versus Io Sky was good. But without a doubt, the main event of night 2 between Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes is without a doubt the best match of WrestleMania 40. Absolute cinema. With all that being said, it is without a doubt that I believe out of the last 10 WrestleManias, WrestleMania 40 is number 1. And that's going to do it for my ranking of the last 10 WrestleManias from worst to best. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Also, don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and push that notification bell, and tell your friends about these videos. And I shall see you again when the next one comes out. But until then, have a good day. Never ever bring exotic dancers to the field house, and I'll catch ya on the flip side. Peace.